I remember reading about Easy Company in World War II. And
tell me what that is.
Easy Company was just a company of soldiers who, I think, the book by Stephen Ambrose about them was called Band of Brothers. Then there was an HBO miniseries by the same name, Band of Brothers. And it's a group of soldiers, parachutists, who parachuted in advance of the landing at Normandy. And then they eventually fought their way through Europe into Germany. They were there to the end.
Wow.
And it was noted that they tended not to be friendly to the people who joined their ranks after the Battle of Europe was engaged, because their fallen comrades, ones who were being replaced, they had trained with and gone into battle with, and now there were these interlopers who were augmenting their ranks because they'd lost so many killed and wounded and taken prisoner. And so one reason that they didn't accept the newcomers was because the newcomers weren't there with them training. The other reason was the newcomers tended to die much more frequently because they weren't experienced, and they didn't want to form friendships with people who die so easily.
Wow.
So that was interesting.
And that's important, and it's got there's a lot of teaching in that on a lot of levels. But I just want to notice two things about it. One, just to say something about what binds men, in war. Why is it that, there's something, when people meet their war buddies, there's something that happens that's real. Maybe we should walk in here just because we're away from the traffic. There's something that happens that's real, and it's hard to form those kind of relationships in other places. So one of the things that kind of the feminist, actually the victim feminist literature has done is, in many books, and you saw there's quite a few of them on my desk, they refer to kind of the bonding, the male bonding of war buddies as just an example of men's connection to violence.
Right.
Men bond over the violence they did together. And it's part of this larger male bashing that's happening in society. And of course it's precisely wrong and precisely misunderstands and doesn't appreciate the beauty of the masculine on two levels. One, men aren't attracted to violence, or men are attracted, which is why men engage in competitive sports ultimately in much greater numbers than women for the same reason. Men are attracted to that which calls them to their edge, and calls them to heroism, and actually calls them to sacrifice. It actually comes from a profound masculine desire to nurture. There's actually a masculine desire to nurture, but the masculine desire to nurture expresses itself differently than the feminine desire to nurture. The masculine is willing to sacrifice himself for the sake of other, and the masculine is called to the edge in that sacrifice, and the masculine also wants to kind of pit himself in a way where his very best needs to come out, right? And that's really the underlying core of the relationship between both men in battle and men in competitive sports. Now we of course know the shadow of war. That's a given, right? That's a complete and absolute given. But that shadow of war exists for men and women. And when Queen Elizabeth was brutal, and Indira Gandhi was responsible for many deaths, as was Margaret Thatcher, etc. So it's not a masculine feminine thing. That's one. Two is, what bonds men together who win a war together is three things. First off, shared experience, right? The shared experience where your life's on the line. Two, shared love. You're with a person who's willing to give his life for you. And three, shared purpose and direction. And for men, directionality and purpose is a great male gift. Now again, when I say male, I mean the masculine, and obviously that exists in men and women. But it's a great masculine gift. And part of the tragedy of the male war buddy syndrome is that many, many men after the war actually never again in life find a purpose and directionality that can create a shared bond and a shared vision. And here again, Luke, we're talking about, the evolution of consciousness. We actually want to create a world in which we can bond over life and not only over death. But when I actually kind of leave the war and I get back to my life, and my life is actually vapid and empty, and I'm punching the clock 9 to 5, and I'm not quite sure where I'm going, and I can't quite get the love I want or give the love I want to give, and I'm just not sure what it's all about, and life's a tale told by an idiot. full of sounds and furies signifying nothing, then I'm going to hark back to that time when at least there was clarity of purpose. So I think that kind of addresses, and kind of plays off, your important comments about what the Ambrose's work.
Okay.